Hello and welcome back. So in this video we're going to be using the Gutenberg editor to design a basic page layout for our WordPress website. To be more precise, what you see right now is the layout that we are going to be building. So first we will add a main heading, followed by a subheading, and then an embedded YouTube video. And then below that we will have another main heading, another subheading, a button, and then an image with text to the right of it, and finally text with an image to the right of that. So these last two are basically the same, just flipped around. So this is a very basic layout, but it gives us a great starting point for using the Gutenberg editor to build layouts on a WordPress website. So let's get straight into building the layout. So first of all, I'm going to completely clear the page that we have been working on. So I'm going to remove every block from this page. And now that we have a completely blank page, we can start adding our first blocks to the page. So first of all, we're going to go to the add block button up here, and we're going to scroll down a little bit, and we're going to add a cover. Now before the cover is added, we want to select a background color for our cover. So I'm going to select a light color. I think this one just here will be good. And this has now automatically given me the option to start adding some text. So I'm just going to add the main heading. And we will edit this text a bit more in a minute, but first of all, we are going to edit the cover block, which we have just added. So we are going to select the cover, and what we are going to do is click onto this icon just here, which is the change alignment icon. And we want to go down and select the full width option. So now this cover block will cover the entire width of the page. So now that we have done that, we can go back and customize the main heading. So I will select the main heading text, and then we want to make the text quite a bit bigger. So rather than 36 pixels, I'm going to put it to about 50. There we go. And I'm also going to highlight all of the text and make it bold. And the final thing that I'm going to do to this text is change its color. So I'll go to color settings on the right over here. And where it says text color, we're just going to add a darker color for this text. So I think this first one here will be perfect. Yep, that looks great. So now what we're going to do is add the subheading. So to do that, I'm going to go back over here to add a block. And we're going to add in this paragraph block just here. Now you probably can't see it, but the block has been added. So to make it visible, I'm just going to add some text to the block. And I'm going to select the text that I have added, align it to the center so that it is actually now in the center of the page. And I'm also going to change the color so that it is the same as the main heading. There we go. So we can now actually see the text that we have added. Now what we're going to do is add the video embed block. So to do that, we're going to go to the add block button again, and then scroll down to the embeds section and click onto the YouTube embed block. So now what we need to do is paste in the YouTube video URL for the video that we want to be displayed onto our page. I already have the video which I want to embed, so I'm going to paste it in and then click the embed button over here. There we go. So the first part of our page has now been completed. Now I'm just going to save our page as a draft so we don't lose our progress. And I can also see that we have a block up here which I haven't cleared yet. So I'm just going to click onto this and click backspace so that it has gone. And now we're going to add some spacers into our page. So what this will do is make the layout look quite a lot better because it will allow us to add some space between our blocks. So to do that, I'm going to go to the plus icon again and type in spacer. This is the block that we want just here. So I will add it into the page and I'm going to move it back up to above the main heading. Now we want this first spacer to have a height of 100 pixels So once you have the spacer selected, in order to change the height, just go over to the right over here, and you can simply input the height that you want your spacer to be. Now I want it to be 100, so I will leave it exactly how it is. And now we also need to add a spacer between the main heading and the subheading, but this one doesn't need to be 100 pixels, this one just needs to be around 20. So I'll duplicate the first one we created and change the height to 20 pixels. There we go. And I'm simply going to click this down arrow to move the spacer down so that it is below the main heading. So now I'm going to add one more spacer to below the subheading. So I will duplicate this one right here. And I think this one should be about 40 pixels. And this one is going to be below the subheading. There we go, that is perfect. So now we can save our page. And we are just going to preview the page as well. Okay, so this is looking good. One thing I would suggest doing is disabling the main page title so that it doesn't display, because it looks better just having this heading here. So now what I'm going to do is disable this title so that it does not display in our page. And I am also going to add another spacer below the video embed, because I think that there should be a bit of space below it rather than just going straight from the video to the next block. So I will also add that as well. So now let's go back to the editor, and I will start by adding that spacer. So I'll duplicate the one at the top, and I'm just going to move it down to below the video. There we go, that's perfect. So I'll save the page again. And now what I need to do is disable this title from displaying. So to do that, I'm going to go to the options for my theme. So I'll click onto the Neve options button here. And I'm going to go to the bottom of these settings and click disable title. There we go. So now I'll save the draft again. And we can preview this page one more time. That looks loads better. So now the title isn't there, we just have the heading which we have added. And the spacing below this video makes it a lot better as well. So this first part of the page is completed. Of course, you want to add your own heading and your own subheading, and you also want to embed your own video. This is all just an example showing you how to build this page layout. So now let's go back to the editor and start adding the other elements to this page. Okay, so the next part of the layout that we are going to be building is the heading, subheading, and button blocks. So in order to add them, I'm going to start by adding a column. So I'll click on the plus and type in column. And we will click onto this one here. And the column variation that we want to add is this one right here. And we don't need the Neve options anymore, so I will close this and open the main page settings instead. So now we're actually going to customize this column variation a little bit. So for the two outside columns, rather than having them at 25% each, we are actually going to have them at 10% each. So do that to both of those right now. And then we need to make the center 80% rather than 50. There we go. So now what we need to do is add the main heading to the center column. So to do that, I'm going to duplicate the other heading that we created and simply bring it down and place it into this center column. There we go. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller because it is not the main heading of the page anymore. It is actually the second. I think that 42 sounds good. And then I'm going to add another paragraph block below it. And for this subheading, I'm going to paste in some sample text. And of course, I want this text to be centered. There we go. And I'm just going to edit the text in this heading to say this is the second heading. Lovely. So now we have almost completed this second part of the layout. So what I'm going to do now is add the button. This one right here. And for the button text, I'm simply going to type in example button. There we go. And I'm going to click onto the button block and center that as well by clicking justify content center. There we go. So we have the second heading, the subheading or text. It doesn't really have to be a subheading, and also the button below that as well. So once again, in order to make this layout look good, I'm going to add a spacer in between the text and in between the secondary text and the button, because otherwise it will all look really cramped in together. So I'm just going to add another spacer to the page. And this one can be 20 pixels. And I will put this spacer just above the button. There we go. And I will duplicate this one and simply put it below the heading. There we go. So now let's save the page again and preview it one more time. So we have the first part of the page which we created earlier. And now we have added this second heading, this paragraph, and this button down here as well. So before I add the final blocks to the page, I'm going to make the button active by adding a link to it. And I'm also going to add one more spacer below the button as well, so that it is not too close to the next blocks that we add to the page. So let's go back to the editor again, and I will click onto the button. And to add a link, we want to click onto this icon here. And you can simply paste in the URL for the page that you want the button to link to. So for example, if I want the button to take you to Google, I will simply type in or paste in the URL for Google, which is www.google.com. Then if I want the button to open the page in a new tab, I will toggle this switch just here. Fantastic. So now I will add another spacer, this time below the button, by duplicating this one here and dragging it down below the button. And I'm going to make this one 100 pixels. There we go. So now let's save the page again and preview it one more time to make sure that the button works. So if I click onto the button, it should open Google in a new page. And there we go, Google has opened in a new page. So that is a success. Okay, so we're now ready to add the final blocks of content to our page to complete the layout that we are building. I have also just realized that I put that final spacer in the wrong place. So I actually need to move it down a little bit more so that it's not actually in the same block as this content up here. It needs to be completely separate so that it is leaving a space between these blocks here and the blocks that I'm going to add right now. So now let's add the final blocks to this page. So I'll click the plus button again and scroll down to media. And I want this block down here called media and text. So with this block, what we need to do is add an image to the media area and some text to the content area. So first I'll select an image from the media library. This one just here will be fine. So I'll select that. And then I'm going to add some content as well. So for this, I'm just going to write image 1. And I'm going to select this text and make it bold. And I'm also going to make the text quite a bit smaller as well. I think about 20 pixels. Okay, that might be a bit too small. I'll try 25. There we go, that could be good. So now what I'm going to do is paste in a paragraph of sample text below this text here. There we go. And now we have the first image and text block completed. In order to add the second block, I'm going to click onto this one and duplicate it. And I'm also going to switch it around so the media is on the right and the text is on the left. So to do that, I'm going to click this icon here. And there we go. So we have now added the final blocks to our page. I'm just going to change image 1 down here to say image 2. And I'm also going to change this image by clicking replace and open media library. And I'll select this image here. So now we have two different images in our media areas. and then we have some blocks of text next to them as well. We could add a spacer between the two blocks, but before I do that, I just want to see how the page looks. So I'll save it and I'm going to preview it in a new tab. So here is the layout that we have built. We have the main heading with a subheading at the top of the page. This is in the cover element, which also has the embedded video as well. We could in fact make the main heading a few pixels bigger, but we don't need to worry about that right now. And then when we scroll down, we have the second heading. To make this look a bit better, I could add a spacer above the heading. And finally, we have the two images just here, which each have some text next to them. So we have a few changes we can make in order to make this layout look a bit better. I'm going to add a spacer above this second heading. I'm going to make this text up here in the main heading a little bit bigger. And I'm also going to add a spacer in between these two blocks and also below the second one as well. So let's go back to the editor and make those changes right now. So first of all, I'm going to add some spacers to the page. We have this one down here. I won't keep it at 100 pixels. I'll put it at about 60 and then I will duplicate it and move it between these two blocks here. And then I'm going to change the height of this one so it's only 30 pixels. And I'm going to duplicate this spacer as well and put it above the second heading. Just here. And I'll make the height of it be about 60 pixels. There we go. And finally, all I need to do now is make the main heading text a bit bigger. So it's currently 50 pixels. So I think that I'll change it to about 60. There we go. And now I will save the page again. And I will preview this page one final time. And here we go. So this is the layout that we have built. I think it looks great considering it's a nice simple layout which is nice and easy to put together. So there we go, we have built a layout for our WordPress website using the Gutenberg editor. That is all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope that you learned something new. I will see you in the next one. Once again, thanks and goodbye.